Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we got a great issue for you guys. It is going to be an Omega run. You already heard the music, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it, shall we? And so today we have 10 books that we will be reviewing for today. I think it's just one, is from last week's polls. The rest are just going to be backlog books. So I kind of mixed in the one into the show a little bit further. We'll get to the reason as to why when we get to that book. But as a reminder for these shows, if this is your first time ever tuning in, review 10 books. I do spoil the heck out of all these books. Just keep that in mind. If you just don't want to hear spoilers, this unfortunately just isn't going to be the show for you. But as we go through it, I'll catch you up on where the story is thus far, talk about the book itself, give you the ranking and where it kind of sits as far as league, and then my opinion as to maybe why I differ a little bit, and then whether or not this is a good place to jump in. So with that, obviously in the video you can see everything is all up on the screen, but for the audio folks, I'll go through these 10 books, and these are the ones that I'm going to review in this order. So we have Batman 155, then Mystique number 3, X-Men Hellfire Vigil. So this is the one that's the most recent from last week's polls, and that's kind of like a double size in book. Then we have Exceptional X-Men number 4, Batman the Brave and the Bold number 14, Outsiders number 11, and that Outsiders is the conclusion of that series. X Factor number 6, Danger Street number 6, Scarlet Witch number 3, and then last but not least we have Miles Morales Spider-Man 19. So those will be the 10 books in that order. Let's go ahead, bring up Batman, go ahead and start off with that. And this is a really good one, and actually surprised me how good this was. I ended up giving it a 4, and League also gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And this book, it picks up, we're still in the middle of like kind of this Enigma Riddler arc. I think this is the 3rd issue for that series. Yeah, that sounds right. It might be the 2nd, but I think it's the 3rd. And the arc is pretty interesting thus far in the way that it has it all laid out. So the mayor, unfortunately, is dead. He was shot, and we don't know exactly who did it. There's indications, though, based on the last issue, that it was Gordon who did it. So Gordon's not actually the commissioner. He was just recently retired and then kind of like forcibly retired from the mayor. We have Savage is now actually the mayor, or is the commissioner. And obviously with the mayor being dead, big old investigation. In the last issue at the cliffhanger, Gordon literally pulled out a gun onto Batman. So they start off this issue with Gordon in custody. And basically he's like, guys, you just got to investigate this and like see how this happened. And so they try to be as coy as they can, as it is like, a Batman book. They don't want Savage to get word that Batman's actually doing the investigation here, but they go through the whole process of just really vetting this out and see, is it even possible that Gordon could have done this? So Batman's going through, all the evidence, going through the crime scene, checking everything out and evaluating it. And in the end, he basically comes up with a conclusion like, Gordon, I don't know how it's possible that you didn't do this. Like, everything specifically leads to you. And so he's in the room and he's all pissed off. And he's like, I knew it. And I think he takes off his glasses and he like smashes them on the ground. And then that right there is the clue. So the glasses, or the piece of fragment of glass that Batman found at the scene, doesn't match the glasses on that Gordon had at the time. And so in that, because you have this discrepancy, Batman looks a little closer. And when he looks a little closer, he's able to see that in the glasses, kind of the frame of it that goes over the earpiece, is a little tiny microchip. And that microchip comes from Enigma Corp. And sure enough, it has the Riddler question mark inside the chip at the very end. So just when you thought like, oh yeah, for sure, like we caught him red-handed, they even caught him in some video. All the video surveillance was deleted, but the surrounding businesses, they had like surveillance, and that had something that reflected off of like someone's side mirror of a car that showed Gordon with like a bag, blood dripping out of like the bloody clothes that he used to like clean up the site and everything. So he was somehow coerced, and that's what we basically got to figure out, and that's the cliffhanger that one leaves off on. There are two other elements here. Nigma's trying to sell his corporation, some sort of AI tech thing. Looks like it potentially could merge or be acquired by Wayne Corporation. Now it looks like it's going to be trying to go legit some other way. And then on top of that, there's claims that Bruce has a brother, and that brother is now wanting his fair share of the Wayne estate. And we get the moment where Bruce goes to basically confront him, but he's not like allowed in, and he like gets not the crap beat out of him, but he gets beat up, and he's like, this is Batman, and he just like kind of takes it. It's funny as us as a reader just seeing like Batman just take some punches and just kind of allow it as he's in Bruce Wayne form. So yeah, I think great issue overall. I really enjoyed the storytelling here. I didn't see it coming at all that it was going to be Nigma had something to do with it. I was like, damn, he for sure like did this. Really good storytelling, as you can get to that whole point, and you've been reading these books for so long, and then somehow, some way, your brain is still tricked. I think that's kind of the magic of comics in general. I kind of view it as, for wrestling too. So I'm a big wrestling fan, obviously. If you listen to the wrestling podcast, you already know. But in the same way, right? It's the same thing that happens there. You have two competitors go in, they ring the bell, you suspend your disbelief, and you just watch what happens. And in your mind, you already have an idea who's going to win, how this is all going to end. It's going to be a certain amount of time for the match. It's a TV, you got commercials, you have all these different parameters and limitations. But over these decade plus that I've been watching that art form as well, you still are surprised of the things that they're able to pull off and the stories that they're able to tell. And this is one of those prime examples here. So you'd think that they would give it a 4.5. It's not. I think the biggest thing is like that twist at the end saved it from being a 3.5 for me. But in the end, it was a pretty neat twist. And it just goes to show that even something as simplistic as like just a regular Batman 155 can take you on a pretty wild journey. So I thought that was pretty good. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well. Let's go ahead and show off some of the art that you have here. Pretty standard stuff, and that's another reason. I forgot a big piece of the story. So the whole thing is that the mayor's wife, we figured that she was cheating for some reason, and she was cheating with Gordon. So Gordon, his wife is dead, and I think his son is dead, or his son wants nothing to do with him. So, and then the mayor's wife, the mayor, was just so busy and wrapped up with work that wasn't paying any attention. And then she was supposed to leave with him in a fit of rage. That's why he went and potentially shot, out of rage and emotion. And Batman was trying to prove otherwise. But it basically looked as though, Gordon did it. There's like no way he couldn't have, until you find out at the very end with the chip, which has that question mark right at the end. So yeah, pretty cool story. I liked it overall. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4. That's Batman 155. So next up here is Mystique number 3. And Mystique's a pretty cool book because it's just like this catch me if you can type of thriller is the way I would describe it. So I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. That feels about right for where we're at. And we have Mystique, who's trying to figure out who killed her wife Destiny, or girlfriend. I'm not sure if they're married together or whatever the case may be. And then we have Nick Fury trying to hunt down Mystique. And for whatever reason, she's not considered as high of a level of threat as she usually is in this. And Nick Fury is like the only one that thinks like, oh my gosh, she's like a credible threat. We absolutely have to stop her. And it's like, yeah, no shit, it's Raven, dude. She could be literally anyone. She's a huge level threat. I mean, not Omega as far as her powers, but how good she is at being someone in disguise. Might as well be Omega, So that is what Nick Fury's after. Sorry, I had to grab a sip of tea. And in this issue, or I should say actually closing off in issue 2, basically found out that Destiny is the one giving tips to Nick Fury of where Raven is and where she's going. So she's not actually dead. Mystique just thinks that she's dead. So classic, like, just Destiny screwing with everyone's head, man. From so much stuff from Krakoa And then even afterwards, I'm like, dude, this Destiny character is just such a trip. She's she's like the most like chaotic, toxic girlfriend you could ever ask for. If like, yeah, I do know the future, like kind of sort of, but I can't really tell you because if I tell you, it's gonna screw it all up. So I kind of have to just guide you and manipulate you in order to do exactly what I need you to do in order for the future to end up the way that I need it to end up. That's Destiny. So that's where this story is and how windy and curvy it goes. So we're at the point now where Raven's next hint is to go after someone in Lowtown in Mandapore. Is that where it is? Where it's the mutant kind of slum. And she finds a doctor there that's been able to like cure mutants or has just been treating mutants, and she needs his help because I guess there's some sort of connection with Destiny. And in order to get him to follow, she's like, I know he's not going to follow me as Raven, so she transforms into Magneto. But with that, there are also other folks and third parties that are interested in this doctor as well, and that's the Sentinels. So I read the Sentinels, that was 1 through 4, I want to say, maybe 1 through 5, already, and so I kind of know their story a little bit. They are basically Sentinels, but they're humans, but they've been injected with like kind of Sentinel AI technology, just make them stronger, better, faster humans, and then also have like some Sentinel capabilities as well. That whole experiment gets all effed up and they basically all end up dying. But in this, they're still kind of in their prime, quote unquote, and trying to go after who they think is Magneto, but it's actually Raven. So they get to the point where they're about to get to Raven. Raven talks to the doctor. The doctor like does something that like amplifies Magneto's powers, but it's actually Raven, so like it's like kind of wonky of how it's working because it's not necessarily amplifying Magneto, it's amplifying Raven. And so with that, like a lot of destruction takes place, and you have a lot of like unintentional people, like collateral damage is what I'm looking for, that ends up getting hurt and injured. She's like, shit, this is going sideways, but she's able to escape, and she has the doctor tied up, throws him into the trunk, turns back into Raven form, and is about to drive off. So now the doctor's like all freaked out. It's like, damn, I got tricked. And the Sentinels, like they're none the wiser. They don't really know what happened. Nick Fury, it's not so much about him in this book, but basically he's hearing about all this disturbance that's happening in Lowtown, but that's like, kind of business as usual. But there's like this weird EMP that goes off, so that then leads them to like, okay, now they have a direction to go and to follow to continue the hunt and the pursuit. So that's the book. I don't want to say filler because we did kind of escalate as to how far Mystique is willing to go. And we already kind of knew that from the first issue, but I guess it just kind of keeps it fresh in mind. I'd still really enjoyed the book, and again, I gave it a 4, Lee gave it a 3.9. If we jump now into some of the artwork here, I think artwork is good, standard Marvel stuff, nothing too crazy that you have going on here, but overall pretty good. So this is basically where she turns into Magneto, and she runs into and sees the doctor, and then she's like fighting everyone, but then of course the powers get amplified like mentioned, and then now she's like kind of going berserk here, and didn't intend to like go full mayhem here, so the Sentinels think they're going actually after Magneto, but they're not. And then so Raven basically turns back into herself. This is when Nick Fury and co, they realize, where their next target is, but she turns back into herself, driving off with the doctor in the trunk, and now she's going to figure out, like, here's what we got to do next. So, yeah, Mystique, number 3. I think there's 5 parts in this book, so we got 2 more, and then it's wrapped up. It's already finished and completed. This book came out back on literally Christmas Day, 2024. So the whole trade is out. I'm enjoying it. I can imagine where it's going, unless it's like a real stinker towards the end. It's pretty good stuff. I've been enjoying this book a lot. If you like good thrillers, this is one for you. Obviously, if you like anything that's like kind of X-Men and mutant related, this is another good one as well. But it's like X-Men adjacent, definitely mutant focused, but not so much X-Men focused. So that's Mystique, number 3. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. So we go from the good, now we have to go to the bad, unfortunately. So next up here, we have X-Men Hellfire Vigil. As you can see, Lee gave it a 3. I gave it a 3.5. I was pretty solid at 3.5. I didn't think it was as bad as the 3, but I could see why people did it, because this book is supposed to be like an absolute banger. This is supposed to be the big book of the year for X-Men, and it kind of summarizes everything that's taken place thus far, and it really sets us on the next trajectory on where things are going to go. I think it didn't accomplish either one of those objectives super well. And then on top of that, it's a Vigil, right? So a lot of the outfits that they're doing, the whole point, it's usually a Hellfire gala. So the outfits are all these ball gowns that look absolutely incredible, like stuff that like you couldn't even imagine drawing in your wildest dreams. And this is like mostly black. So it's like, all right, some of them get dressed up a little bit, but for the most part, it's just the antithesis of like what the book and the purpose is supposed to be. A lot of crazy art summarizing, and if you missed a whole bunch of different books that have taken place over the last 6 months, maybe you get a little brief summary of where all those things are at or where they landed. Maybe some things that you might be interested in potentially going back in on, and then you get like the crazy chaos. So obviously 2 years ago was the Krakoa big blow up. Xavier thinks that he kills all the mutants. That one was nuts. That was my first Hellfire, which was insane. Next year they took a year off and they basically did the wedding of Destiny and Mystique. And now this year it's Hellfire Vigil. So with this year, I was like, man, this was just not what that high was of the Hellfire Gala, and I wish they would just kind of get back to that. I think they are doing some other thing later in the summer, maybe closer towards Labor Day, but I'm not entirely sure. But usually this Hellfire Gala is like 4th of July weekend is like the time that they like to do it. So this is what they put out there. And, to explain it, it is a double feature. It's the length of 64 pages, right? So the usual book is like 32. So it's 2 comics in one. It's $8 that you're paying for this one, which is a heavy price to pay. And yeah, it gives you a little bit of like what's happened. So it has a bit of Dazzler, it has a bit of Exceptional X-Men in there, it has a bit of regular X-Men in there, it has a bit of Phoenix in there, a bit of Uncanny X-Men in there. I don't think X-Factor is actually in there because I don't remember seeing Polaris or Havoc or any of them. Astonishing X-Men, which I didn't even know was a thing that was still going. So a bunch of different things that you have going on. Storm as well. And that takes, I'd say 80 to 85% of the book. Then towards the end, Phoenix actually does shows up to Scott. Scott decided that he didn't want to go. But then they all start getting these messages on their phones. And I don't know if this is the reveal or not, because the way that I'm reading the other X-Men as I'm catching up, this is quote-unquote such an important book, or at least I thought it was going to be, that I went ahead and read it. And the last couple pages are pretty big spoilers in the fact that they reveal who 3K is. Now, I don't know if they were revealed earlier. They're certainly been talked about in just straight-up X-Men, so Scott and his crew up in Alaska. But I don't know if in between now, where I'm at in the X-Men, until, the most recent X-Men up to this book, if 3K has been revealed, or if this was the reveal. My point being, if they were revealed before and you already know about it, fine. If this was the reveal of them, freaking weak. Like, pretty abysmal as to how this reveal went down. Just like 2 pages, it shows who 3K is, which is basically, they said, in the 1000 BC, E or AD or whatever the case is, humans ruled the world. Then in 2000, we kind of coexisted, and then mutants started to take over. And then in the year 3000, mutants have fully taken over. And so 3K is basically the mutants that have now taken over, all descendants of Krakoa, and then now everyone is a mutant. There are no humans that exist. So we have kind of scorched earth type of approach for the mutants of the future that have somehow come to the past, and we're going to have to deal with them some way, shape, or form. Because it seems we can never coexist, as we all know. So that's the reveal. It is Xavier of some sort. Magneto's in there as well. There are a couple others that I didn't necessarily recognize, but I'll flip to it towards the end and I'll show it off, of course. So I know 3K has been mentioned from like the very first X-Men of this reboot, and they discovered that there's some sort of like thing called 3K that's in charge of all of this. And the whole point of the original X-Men is like some of these people are getting their mutant powers way beyond adolescence. And then so they go in and they try to figure out how that is. It was like Psylocke and Boy Genius or Omega Kid, one or the other. I think Omega Kid is the same. They go in and they try to figure out what exactly has happened, and that's where they discover 3K. Then we had like kind of the Grey Malkin prison break out. If you guys have been listening for a while, that's where I'm at right now. And then I imagine it's going to get back to that whole stuff before we get up to this right now. But that's what's out there. And then here's at least to me, a reveal. I don't know if this was revealed earlier, if this is a real reveal for everyone else, just putting it out there in case I sound silly and they're like, yeah, they revealed that 2 months ago. So yeah, that is what it was. Pretty disappointing. It just is what it is, I guess. Let's go over the artwork real quick. Again, it's better than your typical, right? Like, look at this. This is the splash page, like, pretty early on that you see here, which is nice. So that looks good. You got the Krakoa in the background. It's a Vigil, right? So you got the candles going and all that stuff to be expected. Just try to show it off as minimal amount of glare on there as possible. But then throughout, it's just like, a couple dialogue pieces with folks catching up with each other that they haven't seen for a while. As you can see here, just a bunch of black in the dresses that they're wearing. But Scott just basically refusing to go. Phoenix is out there talking, doing her whole thing. Get a nice little splash page there, which looked pretty good. In her typical Phoenix outfit. Dazzler's out there performing. Of course, I read those 4 mini issues of Dazzler. Get some more stuff with Colossus and Magic. They're showing up to the party too. Then you get some of the Uncanny and the X-Men. It's like Romeo and Juliet, because those two sides are like, I guess, have a disagreement on their approach. I think in the end they're like basically the same, but that's how all that is breaking down. Kitty Pryde saying she doesn't want to go. Emma Frost has a pretty good soliloquy here. Honestly, that rocked. And then like, kind of try to break the fourth wall thing. It's like, wow, she's pretty good. And it's like, well, yeah, but she's also a psychic, and like one of the most powerful psychics, so she can make anything sound really good. But if you read it, it does sound good. So then what's it called? Grey Malkin prison. They arrest Dazzler and they just take her. Nobody does anything about it. Storm thinks that she's pregnant. Turns out that she's not pregnant, but she gets a glimpse into the future where she does see a future child, and that brings her joy. And then Phoenix shows up to Scott. They start making out. Classic. And then, talking about what this vigil is all about. Then everyone's phone starts going off, and then here's where they're revealed at the end here. So, who do you have? You have Kova. It's something like that is her name. Obviously Xavier. Obviously Magneto. Or a form of Magneto, anyways. I don't know who that is, and I don't know who that is, if you could see him. So I'm not entirely sure, but we'll see. But this is the big reveal. So, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I just expected better, to be honest. So, 3.5 for me. I could see a 3. I could see lower if you were really pissed. But it is disappointing, especially for an $8 book. Do better. Do better. Alrighty. On to happier things. Exceptional X-Men number 4. Did enjoy this one. Gave it a 4. League gave it a 4.1. So we pick up right where we left off here. And remember, for Exceptional X-Men, this is Kitty Pryde. This is Emma Frost. This is Iceman, who is says right there, enters Iceman. And they have a bunch of recruits. It's like 3 of them. They're trying to train them up, realize they're mutants. Kitty doesn't really want to be involved. She was sick and tired of being an X-Men and just people dying and like the stress, the anxiety, probably going through a lot of PTSD basically. Iceman's there, and Iceman's acting kind of weird, and Kitty's like suspicious about it. So she goes and investigates what he's all doing. While that takes place, Braun's one of the recruits. A lot of this issue is focused in on her. And basically, she is trying out for a play, but she knows she's a mutant. She's working on her powers. A lot of stuff's going on. And she's afraid that her powers are just going to come out in the middle of the audition, the play, whatever the case may be. So she tries to hone all of that and decides, all right, F it, I'm going to do the audition. So she goes, does the audition, and during it, an interdimensional creature attacks. And she's like, oh my gosh, I gotta defend. She uses her skills, her powers, and defeats the creature, sends it back to whatever dimension that it came from. Of course, everyone there is happy, and she's like, doesn't really know how to feel about it. And they're like, hey, well, you kind of sucked at this acting thing. They didn't actually say that, but they basically did. And like, I can offer you like, understudy of like this other like kind of minor role, but like you can't have the lead. And then I think Bronze basically realizes, this isn't really my calling. My calling is to be an X-Men of some sort. So he just turns the whole thing down and then goes back to, training and taking it, I guess, a little bit more seriously. So that was cool. And then Kitty, when she realizes what Iceman's doing, he's actually calling to the Uncanny folks down in Louisiana, which is Rogue and company. And Kitty's like, I don't want to be sucked into this. I don't want to be an X-Men anymore. It's like, I freaking killed people. And when she says that, she says it to the point where it's like right outside the door of like where the students are training. And then they over here, they see the whole fight. And they're like, what? You killed people? And that's the cliffhanger. So we'll see, like, as this drama gets unpacked and we figure out, what exactly is going on with Catherine Pride. So that's Exceptional X-Men number 4. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. Let's show off some of that artwork, shall we? Very good book. I enjoyed it. I think this is a little bit more colorful than you see from your typical Marvel, just because Bronze has like kind of pinker hair. A lot of the artwork takes place in the school. Here's where you have Bronze actually training against like a Sentinel, and it's like Emma Frost going into her mind. But we get back into the real world here. Iceman is meeting up with Kitty Pryde at like dinner, but he's being all weird. Here's where Bronze goes into auditioning, and that creature comes in from the other dimension. And Bronze being like, hey, this ain't for me. This is where Kitty's also suspicious about everything. We got our ads as per usual. And then basically comes to realize she's talking with Rogue. Remembers all the trauma and the fighting and being part of the X-Men. She doesn't want to do this anymore. And boom, shows back up in the room. And you can't really see it because of the lighting. And everyone's like, wait, what? You killed people? So to be continued. So yeah, that's Exceptional X-Men number 4. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. Then next up here we have is Batman Brave and the Bold number 14. So this, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. As per usual, whenever I have Brave and the Bold, I got to, I'm on the wrong camera. I got to pull this up because there's just way too much going on. But I'll say actually the nice thing now is I got a new monitor. So now I got 3 monitors set up. So on the right, or my right anyways, I don't even know if like, is it mirror mode or not. But to my side here, this is where I have all the League stuff all hooked up. I got my actual dock camera, like underneath here. So I see the screen, camera, main camera that has just a simple webcam on it. And then now on the bottom left is also a monitor. So that's on my left and the left of the main screen. And that is going to be like the spot for the notes. So I can have everything up basically all at the same time. So anyways, for Brave and the Bold, I always got to pull up the notes on this one because it is an anthology and it's anywhere from like 4 to 5 parts that go throughout. And I just like, it's funny, like I'll pick up a book and then I'll look at the cover and then I'll immediately like jog my memory. And I do take notes for each and every book just to make sure it helps to like solidify of like, here's what actually happened in that book. But when I pick up Brave and the Bold, it's like 5 different stories that took place and they have nothing to do with each other. So it's just difficult to remember of like, okay, what all happened here. Whereas the other ones I pick it up is like, oh yeah, this is what happens in this book. And I can just like talk through it. And then maybe I forget like some minor or the B plots or whatever. But for the most part, it like tends to stick unless I'm trying to recall like a specific character name. Like I'm very guilty of it for Void Rivals, I know, for example. But for the other stuff, it's just like, oh yeah, I just kind of know. And then I just basically rip through it. But Brave and the Bold, I just need that thing. Always do. Anyways, yeah. So I gave it a 4. I think this was even better than what it's been before. I think a lot of the Brave and the Bold up to, I want to say 10 has been hit or miss. And basically from 10 on has been good. I mean, 4 is basically from 10. So on the back half, we're actually looking pretty strong here. So this issue had 5. We had Nightwing and Deadman Down the Road Part 2. Time Jerks Part 2. The Flash, A Day in the Life. And that was just a one-off. The Invaders Part 2 and The Evidence Remains. So those 5 pieces. First for the Nightwing and Deadman, a little bit of a confusing one, but basically Nightwing comes from like a carny background, right? They're trapeze artists and all that. But Deadman is as well, and he comes from like just generations before, but they're both carnies. So they're brought together. This woman went to jump off a bridge. Nightwing went to save her, couldn't save her quite in time, and it's like bothering her about like where did she go? Can't find her body. So he's trying to figure it out. Then he runs into Deadman. A similar thing is coming up to him, and it's like Carney related. So like, okay, let's team up and let's try to figure this out. So in this issue, they're just basically traveling around the country and trying to figure out what would be a good lead. They end up in this town that has previously been known as a really good Carney town. At first, it doesn't seem like it because like technology is like kind of proliferated and made its way through society, so people don't need to go to carnivals to be entertained and circuses. But they do end up finding like kind of this underground section that's part of the town. They go and investigate. There's some guy that's drunk in the crowd and seems like he's going to burn the whole thing down, and that's what he attempts to do. But then Nightwing and Deadman realize that this guy, he actually has a message to say and to send. And basically he describes like what has actually happened in using like Carney language to the girl. And it has something to do with like a different dimension. So Deadman is really the one that has to like kind of figure it out. And as he's like trying to understand a little bit better, he actually gets attacked from behind. And it's some sort of being, an entity that basically says like, you know, you think you control this domain or you have any understanding, like you don't even know where to begin. So Deadman's actually hurt, but at least now he has kind of a lead of where to go, and he can lead kind of Nightwing on like, here's where we need to go next in order to figure out what is actually happening to this girl, and then, you know, potentially anyone else in the future, like what kind of weird possession thing is happening. So that's the book, and the cliffhanger is like now they know like where they need to go. It's like an interdimensional thing, and not so much that it's going to be like trying to find the next town of, you know, this real human bad guy. It's more of like a deity or a demon or something along those lines. So a good book, and pretty interesting. I don't know anything about Deadman. I'm enjoying it though, and the Deadman art in this is pretty cool. Then next up is Time Jerks. This one's hilarious. So Booster is his name, finds himself traveling through space and time, ends up on a planet, but it's a whole bunch of dinosaurs, and it's not the Justice League, it's the Jurassic League. And so they fix up his ship, and they're like, this guy's such a clown, like, just send him back. So they fix him up, and they send him off, and good, he's off the planet. But on his way back to regular Earth, apparently he had an asteroid on his way there. That was the asteroid that was supposed to destroy the dinosaurs, and then allow humans to grow up. That asteroid never hit, so now it's like, you know, regular 2025, but there are no humans. It's just dinosaurs as humans living in like regular society, but all dinosaur, no human. And the Jurassic League is there as again, but like on Earth instead of that random ass planet. And this issue picks up right from where we left off. So he's like with his own little AI drone. They're like, dude, you hit that asteroid, so now we gotta go back and find out where you hit it and make sure that you don't hit it so it goes towards Earth. And Booster is like, oh crap, but like, how am I going to do that? It sounds like a lot of work. And he's like, well, you know, you're never going to see anyone again. It's like, that's fine. And he names like 5 other things that like you're never going to do again. And then I was like, but you never have a cheeseburger again. And then like Booster's like, all right, we'll do it for the cheeseburger. So he decides that he's going to go back, and he lets the Jurassic League of Earth know, like, hey, well, this is what I'm going to do. And of course, the Jurassic League is like, wait, so now you're going to kill all of us? Like, we can't allow you to do that, obviously. And so how he was going to do it is go and reach for his, like, time machine that he used to fly before, which I guess turns into a spaceship, but they're not letting him do it. And then it's hilarious. In the Jurassic Justice League, there's a dinosaur that is the dinosaur version of Booster, and he's just as much of a goofball as, like, human Booster is. So he's like, oh, hey, guys, like, what are you doing? And as he comes in, he stumbles in and he trips. And as he trips, he completely distracts the Jurassic Justice League. That gives human Booster a chance to go out and grab the time orb just in time. So he does it, heads back, sure enough, makes sure that he doesn't hit the asteroid, and then lands back on Earth. That was, like, hilarious. Funny little short story. I think it's just a 2-parter, and that's it. But that was awesome right there. That alone was like 4.5 just for that story. Then we have the Flash. It's a day in the life of the Flash, and alarm goes up at 7. He runs out, gets an emergency from Superman, helps, has a big old meal. Then Batman has something, helps him out. Then he comes back home, and then there's like the anti-version of the Flash and deals with him, all before 7:10. So he woke up at 7. All of that happened before 7:10 and before his wife's even out of bed. So that's the whole thing. Like, it all, you know, multiple days worth of adventuring all taking place in 10 minutes is the whole point. So that was cute. Then you have the Invaders Part 2. So this is like, looks like actual like gray skin, classic looking aliens crash land on Earth. Green Lantern's there as well, and this is like the goofy Green Lantern. I forget the name. Let's see. I don't think I wrote it down, but it's not John Stewart. It's not Hal, but he basically like doesn't know what this alien creature is either. It has some sort of like fear gas type deal that has already been transmitted to Batman, and they're trying to figure out where he is. And in the last issue, we left off with like the alien looking at both Batman and Green Lantern, but Green Lantern and Batman not realizing it. So we pick up here and then go in and talk into more, and then they look into the bushes where clearly the alien was looking at them, and now they have like some sort of trail just following the radiation. So Batman goes to do that, and he tells Green Lantern, go ahead and like scout out for any civilians, so that way they don't get hurt. And then like Green Lantern's just arguing the whole time, and then sure enough they stumble upon it is a civilian who is hurt. And Batman's like, what the F? Like, you need to go. Like, you can't be screwing around. So he's like, okay, fine, I'll go. So he leaves, and the Batman follows the trail, and he finds where the alien is. He's in some sort of like small little shallow cave, but he's in there. So he goes in and he tries to say, hey, we come in peace, all that jazz. But the alien like freaks out and releases some sort of toxin. It's more of the fear gas, and Batman's like dying, but Green Lantern's like too far away and his ring like powered down and he can't figure out where Batman is. He's like, I don't know how he's going to signal to me or how I'll find him. And then he just cuts back to Batman. He's like choking to death inside the cave. So that's that one. Another kind of funnier one. So we'll see how that all ends up. And then the last piece is The Evidence Remains. And this one is basically just the cycle of Batman. So he wakes up, he goes into the Batmobile, he goes to some fight scene, he barely struggles, he figures it out, and then he heals all his wounds. It's like that, rinse, repeat, over and over and over again. And it shows it in like, I don't know, like a 12 by 5 or whatever. So those 5 things, but 12 times repeated over and over again, each and every single time. And then Batman's basically just having like this conundrum basically, and kind of existential dread of like, what is this all for? Like, am I doing anything? Is there any sort of impact? I'm just on this treadmill over and over again, and nothing ever seems to change. And like, am I making any impact or any dent? And it basically shows at the end all the trophies that he's collected and all the things that he's prevented or stopped, and the people that he potentially saved. And so there is some sort of impact to it all. So those are the 5 stories. Pretty cool. I enjoyed this one a lot. This is the closest one that would have been to a 4.5 that I can remember reading. So that's Batman Brave and the Bold. There are 20 of these. They're all out already. This one came out back on June 25th, 2024. So over a year ago at this point. So if you wanted to get them, that's fine. I'd recommend skip for now, but 14 is definitely worth picking up. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the art. I'll show off a little bit of each one of the stories. So the first piece here is Dead Man, and yeah, I just really like how they draw Dead Man in this. It looks pretty cool. And it's mostly acrobats, so they're all doing like kind of acrobatic moves to really lean into that aspect of it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, nice little book there, a little story we got going. Then we flip to Booster, Mr. Time Traveler here, where he's on his side of the world. And then here is the Jurassic version of Booster, and he comes and he like trips and fumbles, which allows Booster to go and grab his time machine and then head back. That's a pretty nice splash that you got right there, but basically reversing all that history now to just regular old Earth as you would normally see it. So then we got the Flash. Alarm goes off at 7, goes, saves the day multiple times here. And then with that, that's all before 7:10. I think they have it. Yeah, there's the alarm there for 7:10. So that was neat. Then we have the Invaders. Of course, we have this version of Green Lantern. Let's see if they have the name. I can't see which one. Either way. So the girl was basically hurt here. So Green Lantern leaves, and you can see that this alien is hurt some way, somehow. But the fear gas starts to take over. And then Batman is like, oh yeah, I wonder, I'm sure he'll be fine. And like Batman's like dying. Right? Oh my gosh. I don't know why I find that so funny, but I just do. And then, yeah, here's kind of the rinse and repeat. So it's like suit up, drive off, help, hurt, return, heal. And it's just multiple times over and over and over and over and over again. And then, through that, telling the story of, like, is this making any impact at all? Like, it's just this constant, nonstop thing. And then in the end here, I think it basically shows off all the different crazy things and fights that he's had over all the years. And then, yeah, it does make a difference because, like, here are the different trophies and things that he stopped, like, over all those years. And, of course, as is tradition, the last book is always in, like, black and white, or last story anyways. So, yeah, that's Brave and the Bold, number 14. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. Then next up here is Outsiders number 11. And this book is the conclusion and basically the end of this version of the DC universe is what I finally came to realize. I think I finally picked that up on like issue 9. Took me a while there, guys. But we were able to get there. Sorry, I need another sip of tea. And yeah, so with this, we have 4 main characters. So we have Lucius Fox, we have Luke Fox, and then we have Batwoman. So those are the main 3. And then on top of that, you also have Drummer, which is Jaquita Wagner. And Jaquita Wagner is like a Sentry woman, and you basically find out that... I'm sorry, I gave this book a 4, Lee gave it a 3.7. With... Jaquita, we basically find out that she can like exist beyond the universes, and she's just seen constantly these universes come and go. And so she recalls her original universe, and then each time she tries to make a life, they come and go and they come and go. So it breaks the fourth wall a lot, and that these universes like actually truly, when DC completely blows up the universe and like restarts. So we're going like that meta with it. And she's talking about just ending it once and for all. And so with that, she has what's called like the Carrier, which they went down into like the land of where all these stories have died off. And they keep referring to like 190 something thousand books. And it's like literally since the very beginning of Detective Comics, like every single comic that's been read under like the DC label. It's like, I know of all of these books and they all end the same way. Basically these universes like just restarting. And the Carrier kind of follows Jaquita Wagner blindly, but then in this issue realizes like what is happening, and she uses everything in her power to prevent Lucius Fox like dying from old age and an illness, Luke Fox from in the future with like Batman Beyond dying from like some sort of explosion, and then Batwoman, I think it was like some sort of fight with an interdimensional Batman, dying from that. Prevents all of it by rewriting those endings, but that basically sacrifices the Carrier. So now it's those 3 facing off against Jaquita, and she like can't wrap her mind around like, why would you not let me do this? Like the universe is going to end anyways. I need to write this. Like it needs to be done. And they're like, well, here's the thing. Like if you do this, then you are like in a way a librarian. Like you can always just go back and like read about your friends. And she never really considered that. Like let's just have this as like something that we would, have as a keepsake, like a photo that you have saved on your phone, right? You don't need to necessarily burn it all to the ground. And that's what she eventually decides to do. So she does, I think, end up deleting the universe, but it's not like permanently, and like just focuses in on going back and reading old books, which is kind of weird. So it was going towards a 4.5, and then it abruptly came down to a 4, borderline 3.5. Because I really don't know what happened in the end. But that's the story. That's like what it tries to tee up for you, is the end and the restart of DC. And then you have All In special that takes place right after this. So that's the book. That's the series. I enjoyed it. It took a while for this to become what this was about. For a lot of it, it was just going to be Monster of the Week, some sort of random discovery. But yeah, and here's like the advertisement for All In that you had here. But that's what this is like how they're going to destroy this universe. So the first couple of pages are how the endings and how Jaquita had them. And then the Carrier, this is her right here, bringing her back. Or bringing all the other characters back, but that's basically destroys herself. And then they basically just have like the final conflict and with her to like try to understand, what's the motive, what are you all trying to get at right here, and they eventually do kind of convince her that, maybe this isn't the way to go. And then the Carrier does like reach out to her in the end, and that everything is like going to be okay if you just don't necessarily blow it all up in the way that you intended to. And then Luke Fox and Batwoman basically decide what they're going to do next. And I don't think it's anything of substance, to be honest with you. And then Jaquita finally goes back to, I guess Planetary was the book that she's originally comes from, and goes back and reads about her friends. So yeah, interesting, weird, kind of meta, breaking the fourth wall type of book in the end. I thought it was cool. I don't know if it's necessarily worth picking up, but it was a cool book for me. Again, I gave it a 4, Lee gave it a 3.7. Next up here is X Factor number 6, and with that, we got just 4 more books, including X Factor here. So this I gave a 4. Lee gave it a 3.6. I mean, I can kind of see it, but I don't know. To me, that felt like kind of a low score. So for this one, we are at the point now where the X Factor team looked like they were betrayed, and the way that they were betrayed had to do with like someone hacking an AI refrigerator within like the headquarters of X Factor. The way X Factor is kind of designed is like they are a mutant propaganda for the government to only perpetuate like the popularity of their version of mutantum, basically. So what does that mean? If they want mutants to have this certain portrayal about them, that is what they'll use them for. So they'll use it as propaganda, social media efforts, whatever they want to do, any sort of community outreach, but it's not necessarily actually doing any good. And the targets that they're going after aren't things that are actually helping the mutant agenda in any way, shape, or form. So that's what X Factor is about. What Havoc, the leader of X Factor, thinks is that at least he's on the inside and potentially can make some sort of difference, but that ends up really not being the case. With that being said, we have another group called X-Term. They are a bunch of terrorists, and they were the ones that then hacked, and then you had this big fight that took place in issue 5. Issue 6 here is kind of the fallout of all that. So Havoc is with Polaris, or that's his ex-girlfriend anyways, and Polaris is also with this other guy. I wrote down his name. Bruin, that's his name. And so we learn more about Bruin's history and why he's fighting this fight. And basically they're the rebels and trying to just live freely, not under X Factor and this, sort of like superficial rule, and not obviously a terrorist organization trying to, play scorched earth and only have that mutants. They just want to coexist, right? So they're part of the rebels. And Bruin tells this tragic story of like this guy that they were doing some research. I think they were like historians, and they were being attacked by Orcus, and his friend like literally sacrificed himself in order for like the cave of like all the archive stuff to be destroyed, so they couldn't take all that information and recreate whatever mutants via like cloning technology, Mr. Sinister type stuff. So you learn all that tragedy. With that, apparently the group that they're part of like had them at trial, but the trial was like kind of like a fugazi trial because none of them were actually like trial experts. They were all just like following bylaws. So they tell this whole story. They basically get a pass, and with that are just now trying to like lead this organization because they realized everyone else was just a bunch of goobers. So that's one piece of it. The other thing is the guy who tripped up the refrigerator that allowed X-Term in is now out on the loose. So he was like a prisoner. His name is McCloud. He's literally a cloud mutant, and now he's like out on some boat. The X Factor leadership wants X Factor to go after this guy, but the whole X Factor team is like, screw it, we just fought our own people. We lost one of our own. I forget the name of who they lost, but it was like kind of a side character. We're not doing any more stuff going after mutants. So of course they're all pissed off about it, but that's what X Factor decides. And then in the end, the head like leader person is like, see, this is why I never trust mutants, because all they do is betray one another. And here's a prime example. And sure enough, they open the door and it's like some mutant that's in there that's about to betray, we don't know who, to be honest, but about to betray someone. So that is, X Factor number 6. Kind of like a setup issue as to where we're going to go. I'd imagine the first 5 books were the first trade. So now we got to figure out what's all going to happen in this next round here. But I've been enjoying X Factor. I find it pretty funny, especially like the propaganda stuff, and just leaning into like how fake all this is, and like they just care about the clicks and stuff. and how Havoc is just kind of putting up with it. So I find that stuff pretty funny. Pretty tragic what's going on between Havoc and Polaris. But yeah, it's good, entertaining stuff. So this one came out a while ago. This is literally January 1st, so on the new year. So 6+ months ago. So we're way more current than that. But this is one of the X-Men books I actually plan on keeping because I'm thinking that it's entertaining me anyways. So anyways, X Factor number 6, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.6. Then we have Danger Street, book number 6. Now this is confusing, but look at that cover, huh? Darkseid, Fruit Loops, like come on. How can you beat that? I gave it a 4, Lee gave it a 4.1. It's a tough book to try to explain to you guys at this stage of the game. Bunch of non-linear stories all happening kind of simultaneously in parallel paths. But the main story is there's this kid or group of kids, they're out in the desert. There's this other 2 chuckleheads that are trying to join the Justice League. In order to join the Justice League, they want to prove themselves. So they grab this like golden helmet, which I guess has a lot to do in DC lore, but it's very new to me. Then they go and they try to summon Darkseid in particular, and they want to kill Darkseid or capture him for the Justice League to prove that they should be part of it. It's not Darkseid who's summoned, it's some other creature. They fight it, but they barely beat it. And when they do that, one of the kids of the friend group wanders into the desert and sees them, and one of the guys is in shock. He's like one of the blue alien guys, and he shoots the kid, and kid's dead. So now there's like a police officer that's involved. There's like this whole big investigation, but these 2, they're actually heroes, so they want to figure out a way to bring the kid back to life. They figured out a way to do that. They went back to the grave to go and pick him up, but his group of friends, they want revenge. The police officer's trying to solve the murder. In the last issue, basically what we found out is it's 2 people that went out to do the killing. One of them gets into a fight with Orion, and then eventually gets captured by the kids in this book. And then the other one runs into the police officer who's trying to like head out there and investigate it even further. So he is in the hospital, and the police officer is there to investigate. So that takes place, the investigation part and the kids kidnapping the blue guy takes place in book 6. And so with that, the kids, like the blue guy is like completely unconscious because he was fighting Orion, and it was like kind of a stalemate thing. They take him to some abandoned warehouse. They plan on killing him, but they're like, we gotta talk to him first. There's no way we can just kill him. So they decide not to. Then they go and they play video games, and they get so distracted playing video games that the blue guy wakes up, realizes he's in cuffs, just like undoes them and walks off. So that took place. Then the other guy who was driving off in the car with the police officer basically is like, yeah, like I didn't have anything to do with this. You have to let me go. We have to contact the Justice League. Like this is all wrong. But she won't listen, obviously, because he's a wanted suspect or an accomplice for murder. And then the other piece that takes place, you have what's called the Green Team. So the Green Team is like a bunch of kids, but like they're multi-billionaire kids that own a whole bunch of different assets and resources, and they own like a cable news network and stuff like that. But there's this group that's assassinating one of them each by each, and they're all dead now except for one kid, Abdul. But they're assholes, so like don't feel bad for these kids that are dying. This Green Team group, and he's the last one alive. He's trying to get protection. All of his assets are frozen. Looks like he's down and out. Somehow he barely gets away, and he gets to this version of the Outsiders. It's not the Outsiders I just reviewed. It's a different version, and he's hoping that they will protect him. We'll see. So that's taking place. All that's being said, and then there's one other piece. There's Darkseid and the High Father, which was like New God stuff, but in this way before. This is 2023, so this is way before All In and all that stuff. They're doing something. I can't even begin to explain what they're actually doing. I'm not entirely sure, but they're trying to do something, and High Father's going through a lot of pain going through it, try to figure something else out, and I don't know how Orion has anything to do with it. I think we'll find out more on that one as we go in a little bit further. I think there are 12 parts to this book, so yeah, that's the book. That's where we're at. It's a lot going on. There's just a lot going on. So it's cool. It's a Tom King joint. So you just got to read and read and read. It's a whole bunch of, like, it's very tough to just read singles of King to understand what's going on. So you probably need like 3 or 4 at a time in order to get a good sense of like, I feel like I understand 40%. Because there are elements here that are being revealed and I understand where they're going on, like the kid murder part and all that. Fine. The Green Team stuff, I barely get. And then what's happening with the High Father and Orion and Darkseid, I got no idea. So, probably enough hemming and hawing on that. Let's just go ahead and show you the art. Art is interesting. I don't think it's anything too crazy. And it is like that annoying, kind of newspapery feel that I mention every now and then. But this book is so old that it just started teasing The Brave and the Bold. That's how old it is. But here we got Father and Orion. They're all talking. You got the blue guy with the kids. They're trying to figure out what to do. So they're waiting for him to be awake. Then, so this is what, like, High Father and Darkseid are doing. They're, like, pulling apart these plants. Like, I don't actually know what they're doing, though. It doesn't make sense. So, we'll see. And then, basically the kids are still playing video games, and the blue guy is like, the F, I'll just break out of this and just walk away. And then here's kind of where the green team is revealed with, like, this helmet that I was talking about before. Police officer basically trying to figure out the motive as to, why this guy killed that kid anyways. Abdul going up to the outsiders and basically trying to get in good with those outsiders there. So, and then kind of a synopsis towards the end here. So, that is Danger Street number 6. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. Then, second to last here is Scarlet Witch number 3. So, I gave this a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And this book is good. Let's see. Here in the first issue, Scarlet Witch dies. She was killed by the Griever. So the Griever has shown up to wreak havoc and has grander plans beyond, I think it's Lotkil or Lotville is where she's in. New York, basically. But it's not New York City. But grander plans than that. But for whatever reason, she's starting her wrath there. And when Scarlet Witch is killed, she's not dead, of course, because this is superhero comics that we're talking about here, and this is Marvel. So she's like in a land in between. It's like the land of the dead. And in order to get back to Earth, she has to go through some trials. So she goes through her first trial fine, but her second trial is not going to go so well. So it's against Lore, and Lore is like the Scarlet Witch is like the Scarlet Witch of like the universe. This Lore is like kind of witch of this land of the dead, basically. So Lore actually is more powerful than the Scarlet Witch, and especially in the state that she's in, right? Like Scarlet Witch didn't come here voluntarily, she died. So Scarlet Witch is just getting her ass beat the whole time, and it's not looking good. Back on Earth, it's Pietro and then Polaris. So they're like siblings, or like step related, but they're calling themselves siblings in this. So Polaris showed up to help keep the Griever distracted. And Darcy, who is Wanda's like assistant at the shop, went out into like some sort of field to like a log cabin to recruit someone. Now I thought the recruiting was for Polaris. It's revealed here that it wasn't for Polaris. It's for someone else. It's for Hexfinder. And that's interesting because in the last run of Scarlet Witch, Hexfinder was the enemy. So she was a villain. And so you're like, oh, how the hell is Darcy going to pull this off on trying to recruit Hexfinder to help out with Scarlet Witch? And Darcy basically puts out this plea of like, hey, if the roles were reversed, she would do it for you. And if you could do this, now the Scarlet Witch is going to owe you a huge favor. And Hexfinder did like that idea. So in order to bring her back, basically what Hexfinder does, and this is what I think is awesome, is she doesn't like resurrect her with like just some simple spell. She creates the last door. So the whole point of this, and certainly for the 2023 issue, and then maybe not so much for this one, but there's this door that people end up through if they have literally no other resort than for the Scarlet Witch to help. So she creates a version of that door, and that door then appears in the land of the dead where Wanda is as she's getting her ass beat by Lore. And she sees it, and Wanda goes for it and reaches it, and sure enough, that's what brings her back to Earth. So now you got the Griever, you got Polaris, you got Quicksilver, you have Hexfinder, and Scarlet Witch, and then Darcy's there too, all to fight the Griever next. So pretty cool book. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I thought that was pretty neat. So we'll flip through some of the artwork here. Excellent stuff that you had throughout. I'd say one of the better ones on the art side of things. So this is where she's fighting Lore. Let's see, this is like kind of one of those shinier ones, but you can see Lore there, and here Lore is like way more powerful. So this is Darcy talking to Hexfinder, trying to convince her. Back towards the I call it the witches underworld, I guess is where they're at right now, but this is where Lore, like, for sure is in charge here and doing her thing, and it's not looking good for Wanda at all. So they keep fighting and fighting. Wanda's trying to resist, but Lore's looking pretty damn good, pretty damn strong. And so here in this land is basically where it's like Wanda's kind of last stand. Back in the real world, you got Pietro and Polaris fighting off, and then that's when Hexfinder comes back. And then here is where she starts to resurrect that door back up for Wanda, and that's what allows Wanda then to push through and then come back and join up in the fight against the Griever. So, yeah, pretty cool, pretty cool. Scarlet Witch number 3. This came out a while ago also. This is August 2024, so this is already complete. And now they're on Scarlet Witch and Vision is where we're at right now. So not necessarily the time to hop into that, but all the Scarlet Witch stuff I've been enjoying. It's the same team. I imagine it's probably going to go the same place for this one, so I just recommend it overall. But I read 3 series of it, so I didn't feel like getting the 4th, so I just kind of dropped off, and I'm not going to be reading Wanda and Vision, but so far I'm really liking this iteration of it. Next up here is Miles Morales Spider-Man number 19. So this, I gave a 4. Lee gave it a 4.3. Definitely was leaning between 4 and 4.5. I'll say for this book, though, it is just like kind of the classic ending to a superhero story. So we finally, looks like we finished our arc with Rabble, at least thus far. It's the big fight. Remember, Rabble, well, multiple things going on, actually. Let me take a step back. You have the Cape Killers, which is a group of vigilantes controlled by Agent Gao. When gang wars ended, they lifted the law preventing vigilantes, aka Miles Morales, Spider-Man, anyone in New York City that's a vigilante, from not being able to go out. Now they can go out freely and fight crime as they used to. So the Cape Killers was a group of a bunch of villains on work release, basically, plus Miles Morales was part of it as well, controlled by Agent Gao, and they had to basically follow her rule, otherwise go back to jail. That's gone. Agent Gao wanted to find her place in the world now because she's been demoted, and the group is disbanded. She links up with Rabble. At the same time, Miles wants to be proactive about crime fighting. He wants to get to Rabble as well, but Gao got there first. Gao convinces her to create like these collars that increase the power of her Cape Killers. Does that, puts them on. They're fighting Miles' side, which has like Miss Marvel, has Shift, which is like a huge like Hulk version of Miles. Scorpion is randomly signing up with them, and now Rhino. All fighting off against the Cape Killers. I think Scorpion's with them. Maybe he's not. I don't know. Starling is also with them too. And they're fighting. Gao has control of the collar. Turns up the power of the collar to much higher. So now they're like fighting off all the good guys, and like they're winning. But then Rabble and Miles start to square off, and then Rabble gets really pissed. And so then, of course, her whole ability is like being in charge of like electronics. So she turns up the power to like 110%. And it's basically to the point where it's burning out all the villains. So they're beating down all the good guys, but the villains are also dying too because like it's exerting their body too much. So she's basically going to kill both of them. Shift is down. It's not looking good for Miles. He's like, I don't really know what to do. And so his spidey senses have been failing him. It's looking really grim and dire. Like, what the hell is he going to do? And in the corner of his eye, he sees a collar, but it's not one of those power-up collars. It's a dampening collar that they put on, like, the mutants. It's like, if I can get this on Rabble, we're good to go. Powers are stopped. All this will go away. Sure enough, he's able to just get it onto her. And in the nick of time, stops the powers going to the Cape Killers. They're able to get to Shift. Shift seems to be okay. Rabble gets, like, arrested, put in jail. Good guys win. Everything's all hunky-dory. Got to all figure out what to do next. Shift. Miles invites back to his place, introduced to his parents. We're all good. Everyone's happy. Lives happily ever after. That's the story. It's a nice little wrap-up. Put a little bow on it. So we'll see where it happens, or where things end up going now that this is all wrapped up and behind us. Rabble's been the villain of Miles since issue 1. If not 1, like certainly within the first 2 or 3. So it's like, dang, man, here we are in 19. just finally finished up with her. So, or does he? Because we're already on. This one came out April 17, 2024. We're on like issue 33, 34 at this point. So, let's go through some of the artwork here. As always with Miles, a lot of action and very action focused, which makes it great. And this is where like Rabble just looks like a freaking beast here. Like you see her with like almost Saiyan-esque eyes, like just looks like a psychopath there. And so the fight, it just is good. I mean, it's just really desperate the whole time. Then you get like kind of these black and white scenes that go with it as well. And the powers finally get dampened, and looks like they are here for the win. Everyone, all the good guys, make it out okay, make it out alive. Everyone did good. And then here's where Miles tried to introduce Shift to the family in the end here. So yeah, good little book, nice little ending. But we're going to keep this thing going because now we got to get all the way up to 34 or something like that. So that's Miles Morales, Spider-Man number 19. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.3. So with all of that, folks, let's run through real quick all of the books that we talked through for today in order so you can see everything here. We had Batman 155. We had Mystique number 3. We had the X-Men Hellfire Vigil number 1. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go back to the top here. I did this thing that I did for the issues, and I kind of liked it, and I want to repeat it, where I basically just gave a little synopsis of each one. So Batman 155, basically with Gordon trying to figure out, did he do it, did he not do it, in his affair with the mayor's wife. Mystique number 3 turning into Magneto, which is pretty dope. X-Men Hellfire Vigil, disappointment on the big Hellfire issue. We'll see what they do with 3K though. I don't know. I don't know where my hopes are for that, to be honest. Exceptional X-Men. We have Iceman who enters the fray and dealing with Kitty Pryde's trauma. Batman the Brave and the Bold. A couple highlights here, but the biggest one for me is just the time jumper with Booster. It was freaking hilarious. Outsiders finally concluding this meta fourth wall breaking book and ending this universe, setting up All In. X Factor is start of a new volume here and what is going to be next for the X Factor crew. Danger Street number 6, just a continuation of the saga that we have going on here, trying to figure out who done it and how all these stories intersect. Scarlet Witch issue number 3, get Hexfinder into the fray, and Scarlet Witch is now back in the fight. And then Miles Morales Spider-Man number 19, finally cap off here with Miles able to take down Rabble after 19 issues. The good guys get the W, and we'll see what is next for Mr. Morales. So that's it. Those are the books. That's a wrap, folks. Appreciate you tuning in. Again, these Omegas not guaranteed. You know what? I really don't think I'm going to do an Omega next week. And I say that, and of course, I'm going to pressure myself into it. But I really shouldn't because there's so much wrestling content that's happening here for the rest of this week. It's a whole bunch. And I already did a wrestling thing Saturday. I did one yesterday, Monday. I'll be doing one on Wednesday. And then you have 3 or 4 shows that I could technically be doing this weekend. So it's a whole bunch there. So I should really not try to burn both at both ends there. So we'll see on all that. The polls also for this week are very minimal. I think for current books it's only 7, and we'll actually be able to get through a couple of backlog books as well in just kind of the regular issue too. But if I do, obviously, no matter what, you're going to get the Saturday issue, so that'll be coming out then, and then maybe another Omega, but if not, then another Saturday from there. And yeah, I think that is going to do it. That is going to be a wrap for this issue and this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next one.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.